Get ready for a deep dive into the fascinating world of the gut-brain connection.
It's an amazing system.
We'll be exploring this intricate link using excerpts from a medical book.
It's packed with some cutting-edge research.
The book explores how our gut and the trillions of microbes living there actually communicate with our brain.
Yeah, it's really changing how we think about health.
And we'll be tackling some intriguing questions like, is your gut influencing your decisions more than you realize?
It's possible.
Can what you eat actually change your brain?
There's a strong link there.
Could some chronic diseases even be linked to the gut?
That's an area of intense research.
One of the first things that struck me in the book was this idea that the old medical model of the body as a machine is kind of outdated.
Yeah, that machine metaphor has had its day.
It seems like it worked okay for simple problems.
Right, like a broken bone or something.
But when it comes to those chronic diseases that are so prevalent today,
It just doesn't cut it anymore.
and the book points out that technology is actually giving us a whole new lens for understanding the body.
It is.
Like how we think about technology has changed so much just in our lifetime.
It's amazing when you think about it.
40 years ago, it was all about mechanics and engines.
Now everything is about computing power and information processing.
And that's changing how we view the body, too.
Absolutely.
We're seeing it less as a machine and more as a complex, interconnected system.
Right?
I love that analogy in the book about cars.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be all about the engine, and now...
Now they're practically mobile computers on wheels.
Exactly. And our bodies are even more intricate than that.
We're definitely more complex than cars.
We're not just a collection of separate parts, but this incredible network of interconnected systems.
A network? Yeah.
And the gut-brain connection is particularly fascinating.
Oh, it's amazing.
So let's dive into this gut-brain superhighway.
Right.
What's the physical connection between these two organs?
So imagine this. Thick nerve cables running between your gut and your brain.
Wow.
And they're carrying a constant stream of messages back and forth.
So this is not just one way.
Oh, no, it's definitely a two-way street.
And then there's your bloodstream, which acts like another communication channel transporting hormones and signaling molecules.
A good complex system.
So it's this constant communication happening between the gut and the brain.
Whether you're aware of it or not,
That's wild.
it's happening all the time.
Like when you get that feeling of fullness after a meal,
Exactly.
that's your gut sending a signal to your brain.
Saying, hey, we're good down here. You can stop eating now.
I never thought about it like that.
And what about when you get nervous
Oh, yeah.
and you get that churning feeling in your stomach?
That's definitely familiar.
That's your brain talking to your gut.
Saying, we're stressed out.
And here's the interesting part. Your brain remembers these gut feelings.
Like it's keeping track.
It builds up a database of experiences
Really?
that can then influence your future decisions.
That's amazing. So our gut feelings are actually shaping how we think and behave.
In more ways than we realize.
Wow, that's incredible. Now let's talk about the trillions of microbes that live in our gut.
Oh, yeah. They're the stars of the show.
The book calls them the tiny talkers.
I like that.
So what are these microbes saying?
Well, they're not just passive residents. They're actively communicating
They're chatting it up.
with each other and with our bodies.
Using some complex biological language.
It is very complex.
The book talks about some research at the Center for Ulcer Research and Education, where scientists discovered that gut hormones and peptides act as a communication system between these microbes and our bodies.
Yeah, it's groundbreaking work.
And I love that anecdote about John Walsh, one of the scientists at CURE,
Oh, yes?
who apparently made a lot of decisions based on his gut feeling.
He really trusted his intuition.
And he co-authored an article back in 1991 titled, Are Gut Peptides the Words of a Universal Biological Language?
So he was thinking about this a long time ago.
That's wild. So we've got this constant chatter going on between the gut and the brain.
It's a two-way street.
And the microbes are a key part of this conversation.
They're the translators.
But how does all of this get shaped in the first place?
Well, early life experiences are critical.
The book really emphasizes how important those first few years of life are.
They shape that gut-brain dialogue.
And it all starts at birth.
Right from the beginning.
I was captivated by that story about the Yanomami woman giving birth in the Amazon jungle.
It's a powerful image.
This baby is immediately exposed to the mother's vaginal microbes during birth.
And those microbes are the first to colonize the newborn's gut.
So it jumpstarts the development of a healthy microbiome.
It's the foundation.
And what happens when that process is disrupted, like with a C-section delivery?
Well, that's a question researchers are studying.
Because it could potentially have long-term consequences.
Might.
especially when it comes to brain development and the risk of developing certain disorders.
Like autism and obesity, which the book mentions.
That's concerning. And then there's breastfeeding,
Another critical factor.
which plays a vital role in shaping the infant's gut microbiome.
Human milk contains these special sugars.
HMOs.
Yes, human milk oligosaccharides.
Okay, those sound complex.
They are complex molecules.
But basically, they nourish those beneficial bacteria in the baby's gut.
Like a targeted prebiotic.
And this could influence brain development.
Potentially how a baby responds to emotions even.
So breastfeeding is not just about nutrition,
It's about shaping the gut microbiome.
which then impacts their brain development.
It's all connected.
It's amazing how interconnected everything is.
It really is.
So early life is super important, but what about the choices we make as adults,
Right, as we grow up.
especially when it comes to diet?
Well, that has a huge impact too.
The book draws a stark contrast between the diets of traditional cultures like the Yanomami,
And the typical modern North American diet.
and there's a big difference there.
There is.
The Yanomami diet is incredibly diverse,
Based on what they can hunt and gather.
which is very different from the processed foods and sugary drinks that many people consume today.
Yeah, that's a big shift.
And we're only beginning to understand how this shift to a processed westernized diet might be impacting the diversity of our gut microbiome.
We still have a lot to learn.
And the book had that interesting example about gluten.
Oh yes, gluten.
Our consumption has skyrocketed,
In recent decades.
partly due to the widespread use of vital gluten as a food additive.
It's in everything.
And while we know about celiac disease,
Which is an autoimmune condition.
non-celiac gluten sensitivity is much more common.
And it might actually be caused by imbalances in the gut microbiome.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily the gluten itself, but the way it's being added to so many processed foods.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a whole new way to think about it. And speaking of potential problems, the book also talks about inflammation as a key player in the gut-brain connection.
Inflammation is a big piece of the puzzle.
It's a natural part of the body's healing process. But when it becomes chronic, it can be very damaging.
Chronic inflammation is a problem.
And what's fascinating is that inflammation isn't always caused by a physical injury.
Right. It's not always from a cut or a sprain.
For example, a diet high in fat can trigger systemic inflammation throughout the body.
That's true.
So what you eat can actually cause inflammation.
In your gut and beyond.
How does that work?
Well, a high-fat diet can lead to an increase in certain gut microbes.
Like E. coli.
Exactly.
And those produce a substance called lipopolysaccharide.
LPS.
I've heard of that.
It's a component of the cell walls of certain bacteria.
Ah, okay.
And when LPS enters the bloodstream, it triggers an immune response.
Which leads to inflammation.
That's right.
And there's that research on toll-like receptors.
Part of our immune system.
They recognize and respond to LPS.
And studies have shown that when those receptors are absent,
in genetically modified animals.
those animals become obese
Really?
and develop metabolic syndrome.
Wow, so there's a direct link between gut microbes, inflammation, and problems like obesity and metabolic syndrome.
It's a complex interplay.
But those microbes are powerful. They're not just influencing digestion.
Right.
They can also affect our metabolism, our immune system, and even our brain function.
It's all connected.
It's amazing how much influence they have.
And then there's the issue of food addiction,
Yes, food addiction.
which the book touches on.
It's an important topic.
It seems like highly palatable, high-fat and sugary foods can trigger similar responses in the brain as addictive drugs,
They hijack our reward system.
leading to cravings and overeating.
Exactly.
And there's research showing structural and functional changes in the brains of people struggling with obesity.
The food is literally rewiring their brains,
Wow.
making it harder to resist those cravings.
And then we're constantly bombarded with
Your
advertising.
very foods.
That preys on our evolutionary programming to crave calorie-dense foods.
It's a recipe for unhealthy eating habits. It sounds like our modern food environment is a real challenge for our gut-brain connection.
It definitely creates challenges.
But the good news is that we're not powerless.
We have more control than we think.
We can take steps to restore balance and improve our gut health.
Absolutely. There are things we can do.
And that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
We'll get into the practical stuff.
So stay tuned because we'll be discussing evidence-based strategies for supporting a healthy gut-brain axis.
We'll talk about diet
Mindful eating.
and even some fascinating ways to tap into the wisdom of your gut.
I can't wait.
It's going to be interesting. Welcome back to our deep dive into the gut-brain connection.
So far, we've explored this incredible communication network.
Between the gut, its microbes, and the brain.
Now get ready because we're going to venture into the intriguing realm of intuitive decision-making
Those gut feelings.
and explore how your gut might be guiding your choices more than you realize.
It's pretty amazing.
I'm ready to dive in.
This next section of the book really delves into gut feelings
Okay.
and how they're not just some mystical notion.
Right.
They're a real phenomenon.
So it's more than just those butterflies in your stomach.
Oh, yeah. It goes much deeper.
This isn't just about simple digestion.
No, it's not.
So how do these gut feelings work?
Well, the book explains that gut feelings are actually stored in databases in your brain.
Databases, like emotional
It's
memory.
exactly like a library of experiences
Interesting.
that we can tap into when we're making decisions.
Wow. So are we saying our gut is like a second brain?
Well, not exactly a second brain,
Okay.
but the enteric nervous system in your gut is incredibly complex.
It's got its own network of neurons.
Yes, and it can even operate independently of the brain in some ways.
Wow.
But it's in constant communication with the brain, sending signals through those pathways we talked about.
The nerve cables and the bloodstream.
Right, the gut-brain superhighway.
So how do these gut feelings actually play a role in decision-making?
Let me tell you about Stanislav Petrov. He was a Soviet military officer back in 1983.
Okay.
He might have actually single-handedly averted a nuclear war
What?
by trusting his gut feeling.
Seriously?
He received a warning that U.S. missiles were headed toward the Soviet Union,
Oh, no.
but something just didn't feel right to him.
Wow.
He went against protocol,
He did.
and he didn't report it as a real attack.
And
It turned out to be a false alarm.
so his intuition potentially saved the world.
It's possible.
That's incredible. But how do we know if we can trust our gut feelings?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because they're not always right, are they?
No, they're not always right.
And so how do we know?
The book emphasizes that the accuracy of our gut feelings depends on a few things.
Okay.
First, how aware are you of your internal sensations?
Like, can you actually distinguish between a real gut feeling and just indigestion?
Exactly. Can you tell the difference?
That makes sense. We need to be in tune with our bodies
We do.
and understand the signals. And then there's the question of your emotional history.
Your past experiences.
Have you experienced a lot of trauma or stress?
That could be distorting your gut feelings.
I see.
The book talks about corrupted signals.
In people who've experienced a lot of adversity,
Right, their signals might be a little messed up.
so our past can actually influence how we interpret these signals.
Absolutely.
It's all connected.
And here's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
The book delves into the role of the brain's salience network.
The salience network, remind me what that is again?
It's like the brain's attention center.
Okay.
It helps you decide what to pay attention to.
What's important?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's heavily influenced by your emotional experiences,
Especially those from early life.
right? Those early experiences shape the salience network,
So you're saying our gut feelings are shaped by our salience network.
which is shaped by our past experiences.
It's like this feedback loop.
It is.
Our gut is talking to our brain,
Sending signals
and our brain is filtering that information based on our past,
and then sending signals back to the gut.
shaping how we feel and how we act
It's happening all the time.
below our conscious awareness.
But you can learn to tap into it.
Become more aware of those signals.
And the book talks about dreams
Dreams.
as a way to access those deeper gut feelings.
Okay.
Dreams can be a powerful window into your subconscious,
Interesting.
a way to bypass those filters of your conscious mind
And really tune in.
to those gut feelings.
The book mentioned that the gut-brain axis is actually more active during sleep.
That's right.
So while our bodies are resting,
Our guts are hard at work.
sending messages to our brains.
It seems that way.
And the migrating motor complex is most active during sleep.
Those powerful gut contractions,
So that activity could be influencing our dreams.
shaping those emotional narratives.
So the next time I have a weird, vivid dream,
Pay attention.
maybe try to decode it.
See what your gut is trying to tell you.
I like that. The book also suggests keeping a dream journal
Write those dreams down.
and then reflect on them.
What emotions were there? What were the key themes?
Interesting. What about other ways to access these gut feelings?
Well, the book mentions Ericksonian hypnosis.
Hypnosis.
It's a gentle and collaborative approach.
Okay.
It uses metaphors and storytelling.
To tap into the subconscious?
Yes, to bypass the critical factor of your conscious mind.
So it's like using language to reprogram our brains.
In a way, yes.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's that study on women and probiotics.
Oh, yes, that study.
Remind me about that one.
Researchers gave women either a placebo or a probiotic
Okay.
for 4 weeks.
Uh-huh.
They showed them pictures of faces.
With different emotions.
Right. They used brain imaging to see how their brains responded.
So what happened?
The women who took the probiotics showed less connectivity between certain brain regions.
The ones involved in processing emotions.
Exactly.
So the probiotics were influencing how their brains processed emotions.
It seems so.
That's incredible. This is all so fascinating, but it also raises a lot of questions.
It does.
Like, we still don't fully understand how gut microbes communicate with the brain.
Right. Or how different strains of bacteria influence specific emotions or behaviors.
We have a lot more to learn.
But the research is evolving.
It is rapidly evolving.
So what we do know is that learning to tap into those gut feelings could have a big impact on our health and well-being.
It's a powerful tool.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
We'll explore practical tips
for optimizing our gut-brain health.
How to cultivate a healthy gut microbiome.
For better decision-making.
A more resilient stress response.
And overall well-being.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the gut-brain connection.
We've explored a lot, haven't we?
We have, from the communication networks
of the gut-brain axis
to the realm of intuition.
Those gut feelings.
And now it's time to get practical.
The how-to.
Let's talk about what we can actually do with this information.
Put it into practice.
So what can we do to optimize our gut health and cultivate a thriving microbiome?
Well, the book offers some great advice.
Okay.
And it all starts with diet.
Diet again. I know it. It's the foundation.
Okay, I'm ready. What should we be eating?
The book highlights the Mediterranean diet as a great model.
The Mediterranean diet, lots of olive oil and fresh produce.
And fish.
It sounds delicious.
It is.
And healthy.
It consistently ranks as one of the healthiest dietary patterns.
So it's not just about the specific foods.
It's the overall approach.
Prioritizing those plant-based foods
and fats.
And minimizing processed foods.
It creates a good environment for your gut.
And the book mentioned polyphenols?
Yes.
Are those important?
They're plant compounds.
Mm.
Foods like olive oil, berries, dark chocolate.
And red wine.
Yes, even red wine.
So a glass of red wine with dinner is good for our gut.
In moderation, of course.
Of course. But those polyphenols act as prebiotics.
They feed the good bacteria.
And some studies suggest they might even have direct effects on the brain.
Reducing inflammation.
Protecting against cognitive decline.
It's possible.
It's amazing how small changes can have such a ripple effect.
It's all connected.
And the book also talks about fasting.
Giving your gut a break.
Fasting? I don't know about that.
It doesn't have to be extreme.
Okay.
Even short periods can be beneficial.
Like how short?
Even a 12-hour overnight fast can be enough.
To let that migrating motor complex do its thing.
Exactly.
So fasting gives our gut a chance to clean house.
Exactly. It can have some positive effects.
But it's important to do it safely, right?
Absolutely. Talk to your doctor first.
Especially if you have any health conditions.
Right.
Okay, so we've got diet and fasting. What else can we do?
Well, remember those microbes?
The tiny talkers.
We can give them a boost
Ow.
by incorporating fermented foods and probiotics.
Fermented foods, I love those.
Yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi.
All delicious.
And full of beneficial bacteria.
They can help diversify the gut microbiome.
Yes, and you can also take probiotics.
As supplement.
Or in food form.
So we're creating a diverse and balanced ecosystem.
Exactly. Diversity is key.
A healthy gut microbiome is better equipped to handle stress.
Fight off pathogens.
Maintain balance.
It's all about balance.
And this diversity is especially important as we age.
It is.
Because our gut microbiome naturally becomes less diverse.
As we get older.
And that makes us more vulnerable.
To health problems.
Like inflammation and cognitive decline.
Right.
So supporting gut health is important throughout life.
But it becomes even more crucial as we age.
Okay, so we've talked about diet, fasting, and supporting our microbiome.
And don't forget mindful eating.
Right. How we eat is important too.
It is.
Stress can really mess with our digestion.
It disrupts the gut-brain connection.
I know that for sure.
It's your brain signaling to your gut.
And if that stress is chronic,
it creates a vicious cycle.
Leading to inflammation.
Imbalances.
And even altered brain function.
It can affect everything.
So we need to relax.
De-stress.
Savor our meals.
It makes a difference.
The book suggests deep breathing, meditation, yoga.
Those can help.
Calm the nervous system.
Reduce stress.
And social connection is important too.
It is.
Sharing meals with loved ones.
Laughing, connecting.
Happiness is good for the gut.
Exactly.
So nourish our bodies.
Manage stress.
Cultivate a healthy gut microbiome.
And prioritize joy.
It's all connected.
It's a holistic approach.
This deep dive has been fascinating.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to my gut feelings.
You should. They're a wise guide.
Any final words of wisdom?
Trust your intuition. Listen to your body. And remember, you are what your microbes eat.
Take care of your gut, and your gut will take care of you.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of the gut-brain connection.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you learned something new and are feeling inspired to take better care of your gut.
We'll see you next time.